Hey there, this is Seth. In this video, I'm going to take you through the process of how to create your own warranty deed and quitclaim deed. And if you know anything about deeds, you know that a warranty deed and a quitclaim deed are two very different kinds of deeds. They're almost total opposites in what they do, but the information you have to fill out on each one is fairly similar between the two. The difference lies in what the deed template says and what kind of guarantees the seller or the grantor is making when they're transferring that deed to somebody else. And creating a deed is actually a fairly simple thing to do, provided you have a deed that says the right things in it. And I'll also say, I'm not an attorney. Don't take any of this video as legal advice. I'm just showing you exactly how I fill out these deed templates whenever I'm buying and selling properties on my own. Now, the template I'm going to show you here in this video is not one that works in all 50 states, so it's important that you find the right template for your state, for your situation, whether you're an individual or a company or a married couple. There's lots of different situations and scenarios depending on who the buyer and who the seller is. And there are also some states out there that consider the preparation of a deed to be the practice of law. Not a lot of states, but a handful of them. It's another thing to be aware of, that what I'm about to show you here, there are some states where you just don't even want to mess with this. And if you want to see a list of those states, I've got a blog post with an interactive map that shows you how it works in all 50 states. I'll be sure to include a link to that beneath this video if you want to check it out. And on that note, if you want to figure out what the right template is for your situation, there's a few resources I'll share with you before we get into this. One of them is called US Legal. We actually have an affiliate link to them if you click on that beneath this video, or I'll have a QR code right here on the screen. Just go to REtipster.com/US Legal. And once you get there, you just go up here to the navigation bar and click on Personal, and then go down here to Deeds, and then select the state where your property is located. So for example, if mine's in Michigan, I click on this, and you'll see there are all kinds of different deed templates that are written for specific situations, whether you're looking for a quitclaim deed from a husband to their wife, or a warranty deed from two individuals to an LLC. Pretty much any conceivable scenario is here. You just have to click on it, and once you get here, you can actually see the deed. You can even get a little preview of what it's going to look like. And the beauty is, once you've bought this thing, you can reuse that template over and over and over again, as long as you have that same scenario in the same state. Another way you can do this is to go to a website called Rocket Lawyer, or there's also Law Depot, or legal templates. Lots of different websites out there that do the very similar thing, where once you know what type of deed you're filling out, whether it's a warranty deed or a quitclaim deed, you select the state, start making the document, and it'll actually take you through a questionnaire where you just answer the questions, and it will compile the whole thing for you. And the only difference with this is that you have to pay for it each time you do it, or get some kind of an annual subscription, whereas US Legal is you pay for the template one time and then it's yours to use forever. But either way, that's how you can kind of make sure you're getting the right template to begin with. And if you are going the US Legal route, where you have this template either from there or some other source, I'm just going to show you how to fill that out so you can understand what's going on here, what information we have to put in there, what this deed is saying, whether it's a quitclaim deed or a warranty deed. And again, the only reason I'm combining these two very different types of deeds in the same video is simply because you have to fill out the same information for each one. The main difference is just in what that deed template says. And there are some huge differences, which I'll show you in just a second. So let's dive into it. Okay, so what we've got here on the screen are the quitclaim deed and warranty deed template. See a nice little legal disclaimer there. So here's the quitclaim deed, and here is the warranty deed. And as you'll see in just a minute here, as we fill this thing out, whether it's the quitclaim or the warranty deed, the same information goes in both in terms of these little blanks that we have to fill in. The main differences you see are in some language here. So for example, in the warranty deed, it says conveys in warrants to the buyer, whereas in the quitclaim deed, it says hereby quitclaims to the buyer. So just a quick background on the differences between these. When a seller signs a warranty deed to a buyer, or the grantor, the seller, signs the warranty deed to the grantee, which is the buyer, what they're doing there is they're saying, I promise I am conveying the entire title. There are no title defects. There's no title problems. Going back to the very beginning of time, you are getting a clear title here. And if it's not clear, you can come after me in the future. I'm promising you are getting 100% of the property. And if not, I'm going to state in here what you're not getting. And if you don't state anything, then that implies that they're getting all of it. So really, a seller should only be signing this type of deed here if they're 100% certain that they can do that there's no title problems in the history. And the reason most sellers are able to do this is because they have title insurance backing them up, which is something that everybody's going to get if they close their transaction with a title company, which most people do. So as long as you're checking all those boxes, it's fine to sign a warranty deed. However, if you are selling a property that you bought for like $100, which I've actually bought a lot of properties at around that price, believe it or not. That's a conversation for a whole separate video. But if you have a super cheap property like that, or say if you are transferring the property from yourself to your LLC, so you're basically transferring it from yourself to yourself, or from a husband to a wife, or a wife to a husband, and you don't need to make all these crazy promises. The buyer doesn't need the seller to say all that stuff. They're just saying, hey, whatever you own of this property, I want you to transfer that to me. And just to paint a ridiculous example, I could sign a quitclaim deed to the White House to you right now. And that's okay, because this is just saying whatever I own of this property, if anything, even if it's nothing, whatever I own of that, I'm transferring to you. And I'm not making any promises about the title. It could be a complete mess. All I'm saying here is that whatever I have is now yours. So that's why I say these two types of deeds are very different in what they do. And in terms of the warranty deed and all those promises and everything, that's what you see outlined right here. Whereas in the quitclaim deed, you're not going to see any of that because we're not making those promises. And on that whole note of title companies, it's pretty uncommon for most property owners to fill out their own deeds like I'm showing you here. So if at any point this feels too confusing, that's totally fine. Most people don't do this. They work with title companies or attorneys to close their transactions. And in fact, that's what I do most of the time these days as well. The only time I've ever done this, what I'm showing you here, filling out my own deed, is if I'm transferring it from myself to myself, or if I'm buying or selling a very, very, very cheap property, a property that's cheaper than the cost of hiring a title company. So there's a pretty small margin for when I would be doing this, but when I do, this is how I do it. So in this little fictitious scenario, we're going to say that the buyer is George Clooney and the seller is Brad Pitt. And the buyer is buying this on behalf of his company, XYZ Properties. And Brad Pitt, he owns this property personally in his own name, and he's selling it as a single man. And the reason it's important to mention the marital status is because many states have dowry laws where if a property is transferred to one person, but that person happens to be married, then their spouse automatically has ownership in that property too. So if a person's married, then when they sell that property, they would have to get their spouse to sign off on it as well. So that's why the whole marital status thing is mentioned there. So in this example, let's just focus on the quitclaim deed. So in the quitclaim deed, we're going to say that the seller is Brad Pitt, and he is a single man whose address is 5678 Northland Drive, Beverly Hills, California, 90210. And they are the grantor, and they're hereby quitclaiming to buyer name. Now, when we're transferring this to George Clooney, remember, we're actually transferring it to his LLC, not him personally. The name we would put in here is his LLC. So we'll do XYZ Properties, Louisiana Limited Liability Company. And the reason it's important to put the state in there is because, there could be the exact same named LLC in another state. And the way we differentiate that is by specifying which state we're talking about, because there can't be multiple identically named LLCs in the same state. So it's just what you have to do there. And then for the address, we'll put the address of that LLC. And yes, these are completely fictitious, made up addresses. And then here we would put the dollar amount that's being transferred for. And I will say some states are non-disclosure states where you don't have to put the dollar amount. I actually have a whole nationwide map spelling out which states are like that. If you want to check it out, I'll be sure to link to that beneath this video. But in the states where you do put it in there, I would just put it like that. And then we would specify the city or township and then county name and state where this property is located. So when you're at the point of filling out a deed form like this, you may already have all this information in front of you, like you probably already know what this stuff is. But just in case you don't, or if you happen to be missing certain key pieces of this information, I'm going to show you few different places where you could get it. So one is you could Google the city or township and county name and look for the assessor. A lot of times you can find a lot of the specific information like the parcel number and the legal description. But a much easier way to do this is with a paid data service. If you're a real estate investor like me and you do this all the time, this is absolutely worth the cost. It'll make your life so much easier. And there's a number of these different data services out there you can use. I've actually got a whole blog post with a lot of videos explaining several different different options and how they work. But for example, if you were using something like the land portal. So the land portal is a great one for land investors. All you have to do is find the property in question, click on it, and over here you will find the parcel ID number. So this information is what we would put right here. And then the legal description is right down here. So we would take that and put that right here. And we'd probably want to format this just so it looks nice and neat and uniform. So we can do that. And if it has an address, you could put that there as well. If you're doing this with a house, it's going to be pretty easy because every house has a registered mailing address. However, with vacant land, a lot of vacant lots don't have a physical mailing address at all. It just hasn't been registered yet. So if it doesn't have one, you could just delete this altogether and get rid of it. And if you're using the land portal, you can find the county name and the state name and that kind of thing. You can also find the township down here where it says municipalities. We'll put Echo Township down here. And if you're not using the land portal, say if you're using something like PropStream, which is another really popular one, you would just find the property by searching up here and finding it that way. Click on it. And then when you click on details here, you can find all the same information here. So this is the legal description. This is the parcel number. You can also see that parcel number up here, county, Antrim County. You can see the municipality down here. This is a different property, but that's where you can find the information. You can also see the full legal description. So what you see up here is called the abbreviated legal description. And this is like the long form legal description. And they're both basically saying the same thing. This is just using abbreviations to say it. I would probably use this one in a deed just because it's more complete. Some other data services out there that would give you the same information are Property Radar, Data Tree, Connected Investors, and we actually have affiliate links to each one of those things. So if you don't have a data service yet, be sure to sign up for one of them and click through our affiliate links. You can get a discount on most of them if you go through our links. I'll be sure to include all those beneath this video, or you can scan the respective QR codes on the screen right now. But once you have that information and once it's put in here, the next step is to put the date of when you're signing this thing. So I'm recording this on the 24th day of January, 2025. And then where it says print seller name. So Brad Pitt is the seller in this situation, and he is selling this as an individual. If he was married, we would put his wife's name up here as well and label them as husband and wife, and then they would both sign this. And I'll also say, if we were switching this around and if George Clooney was selling this thing on behalf of XYZ Properties, we basically switch these labels around so that, you know, this right here would be the grantor up here at the top, and then Brad Pitt, a single man, would be a grantee down here. And then down here where it says signed and sealed, instead we would say XYZ Properties LLC, Louisiana Limited Liability Company, and then we would put by George Clooney, its member, or whatever his title is on that entity. And I will say, if you're filling this out on behalf of the seller, and say if you are the buyer, so it actually takes a little bit more work to figure out who does have the authority to sign on behalf of this LLC. You have to collect corporate documents and verify that George Clooney actually has the authority to sign. It's definitely an added layer of complexity. And usually when I see that I'm buying from an LLC, I don't even bother trying to do this myself. I just bring it to a title company and make sure that they can do this correct, so I don't have to mess it up. The easiest situation by far when I'm doing this is when I'm buying it from an individual and I can verify their identity by getting a copy of their driver's license or their passport and having them notarize the signature and all this stuff. So, and I'll also mention, you should only do this at your own risk. It's actually becoming more and more common to come across scams where people are like faking that they are the seller when they're not. And for that reason as well, it's also not a bad idea just to use a title company because they have a lot more capabilities to verify the seller's identity. And even if they end up being wrong, your title insurance policy can protect you, so you don't have to get hurt if that were to happen. So just another word of warning to be aware of. And then down here, again, assuming Brad Pitt was signing this and selling it personally, he would get his name notarized here. Notaries can be found at any local bank or a title company or UPS store location, or you can use something like notarize.com to get the seller's signature notarized that way. And then down here, whoever prepared the document, so in this case, if I was George Clooney, for example, or Brad Pitt, I would put my name down here, my address, city, state, and zip, and then return and send subsequent tax bills to. And this is where I would always put the buyer's name because the deed is now theirs and all these subsequent tax bills should be going to them. And I'll also say a lot of times when you're doing this in most states, you actually have to fill out another document beyond just this deed that goes to the city or the township, because this deed here is getting recorded by the county, and the county definitely needs to know about all this stuff because they have the records of who owns what. However, in terms of who sends out the subsequent tax bills, that's not coming from the county. That's coming from the city or township. So you have to let them know as well. And unfortunately, most counties and cities or counties and township offices don't communicate that well. So you have to let both of them know. And this can definitely get a little confusing because what this supporting documentation is called kind of goes by a different name in each state. So for example, if you're doing this in Nevada, they call this the Declaration of Value. This is where you have to fill this form out and then send it to the township where the property is in or the city the property is in, just to let them know as well. And in Hawaii, it's called a conveyance tax certificate, and it looks like this. And it's pretty much all the same information. They just use different names in different states. I don't know why. I wish they would just be consistent. And then over here in Michigan, they call it a property transfer affidavit. Again, it's the same thing. But whenever I am doing this kind of thing, I also have to fill out this and send this separately to that township or city, just so that they are aware of who now owns the property, whether it's me or somebody that I just sold a property to. And this is how they know where to send the future tax bills. So just be sure to do that as well. And that's pretty much it. Again, you can get these deeds for the appropriate state and situation at US Legal, or you can use something like Rocket Lawyer that's a little bit more user-friendly. And if we were to do the same thing, we would fill out all the exact same stuff for a warranty deed. It's just that a warranty deed is making a lot more promises in terms of what's going into this conveyance. So thanks again for watching. Again, if you want to get deed templates, or if you want to use a real estate data service to get a lot of the information that you'll need to put in these templates, I'll have links to a bunch of different options below. If you click through any of those and sign up, it'll help support REtipster.com. Thanks so much. Thanks for watching, and talk to you again soon.